What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Happy Monday. Good afternoon. It is 2 p.m. About to be 2 p.m. 1:59. And I hope you guys are all having a great week. It is the end of May. I'm excited for Memorial Day this weekend. Not that much can happen, or not much will change, but okay, someone says happy birthday, or no, it's their birthday, so happy birthday to you. Hope you're having a great day, enjoying quarantine. We are in Los Angeles. It's raining out now. It's turning out to be a little bit of a beautiful day, and we're excited to talk about to talk with Simon Sinek, someone that I look up to, that I love, an amazing optimist, and I've watched his TED Talks, to reading his books, to getting to meet him in person and everything like that. So I'm excited to talk with him today, and I think my mom is here somewhere. Let's see, she's here, Maria, and then we'll get Simon in.
Hi.
Oh my God, it has been too long.
I know. Happy Monday to you. We're still home together.
We are still home together, me and you, and it is a wonderful Monday, and I'm excited to talk with you and with Simon Sinek.
Yes, I'm super excited. Simon, I wrote about Simon yesterday in my Sunday paper.
Wow.
His 3 wishes for our world. We were out on a socially distanced walk, and somebody asked us both, what are your 3 wishes for our world right now? And he quickly, spurted off 3. He actually had 4 incredible wishes for our world. And they were all.
Well, don't tell them. I'm
not going to.
We'll hear right from the man himself.
Yes, we will. So I'm going to come in and join you. I'm so glad that we're going to be doing this week on your Instagram page, our Home Together. We've been doing a lot on my page. And so now we're going to do them on your page. And we have Marissa Peer this week. We have Blake Muskoke this week from Tom's Shoes. We have Sarah Blakely. We have
a bunch of great people.
Lineup.
All right, well, I'll see you in a second.
Okay, now I go away, right?
Just come inside. Someone said I look extremely tired today. I don't know if it's the light or if it's, I'm not tired. I feel great. I'm awake. I'm wide awake. Maybe it was a long weekend. I don't know. It said, when is Moxie planning to be released? I'm not sure. I think January maybe, but not 100% sure. But anyways, let's get Simon in here. Simon is a great speaker. He's a great author. He
wow,
is.
You made that dark in here. Holy mackerel!
That's what it's not dark. It's super light. This thing. Maybe it's because it's so bright. I don't know.
Okay.
But I feel Someone said I looked tired.
Yeah, well, it looks dark. But anyway, I
don't know. Maybe it's because it's from outside the light.
Okay. Well, yeah.
We can turn it the other way.
All right.
You want to turn this way?
Yeah, something.
Something. Maria says.
Welcome, Simon.
I will welcome Simon. I'm sure. I don't know what it is. Hey, Simon.
Hey, Patrick. Hey, Maria.
What's going on?
Hi, Simon. There we go.
Hi.
That's much better.
Patrick, I have so much respect that you're grooming your beard.
I don't know if it's grooming. It's just, you saw I had a big handlebar mustache and everything a few weeks ago. I'm growing it back out. I don't know what it is with the light today. I think it's from outside being so.
We actually look really good in person.
Every day I look more and more like a Q-tip.
Yeah.
So Simon's book was your very first book in your very first book club.
Yes. So for the people that are on here, they know I have a book club because a lot of them are in there. Simon's the one that pressured me to start a book club.
Oh, it was Simon's idea.
It was Simon's idea.
He pressured you, or he just gave you the idea?
He gently pushed along the idea.
And he didn't push along the idea that it should be his book.
No, he didn't.
No, never.
You gave me his book prior to us meeting.
That's right.
And I had emailed Simon. Actually, I DM'd or emailed something, and we went for coffee, and he had talked about the idea of the book club. And I said that it was going to be on my goals to read more books, and he said to do the book club because then it made it so that you could have a conversation without the phone, and it would make it so you would be felt held responsible in order to read and be able to talk about it. So
Well,
anyways,
I'm just a big fan of people doing things together.
there you go.
There you go.
know,
Annie's
so-
an eternal optimist. Annie's a student of leadership. And we need both right now.
We do.
Boy, do
And that's
it.
why we're talking with Simon.
Boy, do we.
That's why
Yeah.
we're talking. So,
Well-
Simon, are you optimistic for our world and for us at this moment?
Yeah, of course. Optimism is not the denial of the current state. It's not the denial of truth. It's the belief that the future is positive. You know, it's not about rose-colored glasses walking around going, hey, everything's fine, everything's great, nothing to see here. You know, we are in a dark tunnel, and there's a lot of difficulty, but the light is at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how long it's going to take us to get there, but we are moving forwards, and we will get there, and we will be stronger when we emerge. That's what optimism is. It's the belief that we're moving forwards towards goodness.
Right, and you talked about one of your Instagram videos the other day that I really liked was the difference between positivity versus optimism. Yet when I kind of was talking to Maria about it, she was like, "Okay, how do you show mommy? Okay, how do you show that? How do you show that optimism? How do you really truly believe that there is that light at the end of the tunnel? And how do you act as if you have optimism versus just being positive?"
Yeah, and I want to know about that for people who've lost their jobs, who can't put food on the table, who don't know if they're going to get a job. How do they stay positive? How do you suggest they be optimistic?
So the easiest way is to be in service to others. When we human beings, we're social animals. We're not very good by ourselves, and left to our own devices, you know, we can be consumed with our own narratives, which can be self-destructive. Even in dark times, there's still good things that can happen. To get me through this, I keep thinking of my grandmother who lived through the Blitz during the Second World War, where the Germans bombed London for 11 weeks straight. And destroyed 60% of all the homes. And she would tell us stories of how she would go to work every day. And she lived to tell the tale. And so, you know, we're relatively safe at home. So I think about that. They were safe nowhere, no matter where they went. That there was never safety night or day. And so I think of that to help me, that if she could get through that and tell the story, we can get through this. And to answer your question, like, how does someone who's lost their job or who has a dramatic amount of uncertainty, you know, how do you maintain optimism when it is genuinely a struggle?
Yeah.
And again, I go back to service. Alcoholics Anonymous knows all about this. Most people are familiar with the first step of the 12-step program, which is to admit you have a problem, right? There's no denying it. Again, that goes with that optimism. It's not the denial of a dark place. And Alcoholics Anonymous knows that if you master 11 of the 12 steps, that you're likely to succumb to the disease. You have to master the 12 steps in order to improve the likelihood that you can beat the disease. And the 12th step is to help another alcoholic. It's service. And so when we're in a hard position, the opportunity is to find someone who's in the same position and help them overcome their challenge, help them to remain optimistic. And the amazing thing is in being of service to someone who's struggling with the same thing as us, we're more likely to maintain our own optimism and find solutions for ourselves as well.
That's really good. We heard that a line recently: when you're feeling hopeless, become helpful. And when you go and you help others, internally you feel a satisfaction that you never thought you could feel. And that's such a kind of a pertinent idea to this moment right now. I want to go back to your book, because that was our first book in our book club, The Infinite Mindset. And I just feel like it's perfect for right now. I mean, you talked about so many different companies. I don't want to rattle them all off, but that kind of went through adversity, that went through the last economic crisis, that went through so many different issues in their companies, and how certain leaders versus other leaders took the time to really focus on their just cause and to not worry so much about finite goals and trying to win in the next 30 days, 60 days, 1 year, but really the long-term idea of business. Tell people right now, for a lot of people that are on here that have businesses, that work at businesses, what are ways to think in that long-term setting and not be so distracted about what's happening right now, because it's really tough for a lot of companies.
Sure. So in 1986, James Carse, a philosopher named Dr. James Carse, articulated these two types of games: finite games and infinite games. A finite game is defined as known players, fixed rules, and an agreed upon objective. Football, baseball. There's always a beginning, middle, and end. And if there's a winner, there has to be a loser. The infinite game is defined as known and unknown players, which means new players can join the game at any time. The rules are changeable, which means every player can play however they want. And the objective is to stay in the game as long as possible, to perpetuate the game. Mm-hmm. We're players in infinite games every day of our lives. There's no such thing as winning global politics, right? There's no such thing as winning career. No one's declared the winner of careers. There's definitely no such thing as winning education or winning healthcare, and there's definitely no such thing as winning business. But if we listen to the language of so many of our leaders, they talk about being number one, being the best, and beating their competition. In other words, they don't know what game they're in. They're playing to win in a game that has no finish line.
Right.
And the problem is when we play with the wrong mindset for the game that we're in, there's a few very predictable and consistent outcomes, including the decline of trust, the decline of cooperation, and the decline of innovation. So we have to play with the right mindset for the game that we're in. And even though our lives are finite, life is infinite, and COVID is not trying to beat us, it's not trying to win, it's simply trying to stay alive itself. And even for us, there's no winning. There's getting through this period, but it's not going to be the end of disease and the end of viruses.
Right. Exactly.
So to adopt an infinite mindset means that we recognize that this is a bump in the journey, but it's not the beginning, the middle, or the end of the journey. It's just a place in the journey. And we know how to deal with this stuff. You know, most of us have never dealt with a global pandemic before because they don't happen that frequently. But imagine if we, instead of living for 70 or 80 years on average, imagine we lived for 1,000 years. That was the average lifespan. This would be like our 6th pandemic. Like, we would know how to deal with this and we would be prepared. And if you look at some parts of the country that get hit by hurricanes, for example, right? They even have a season for it, right? There's loss of life, there's economic damage, but we know how to prepare ourselves. We try and mitigate all of that damage, and we know how to, and we buy insurance against it and things like that. In other words, we think of these things. And so it's the same with an infinite mindset. Leaders with an infinite mindset, they may not know exactly what the setback's going to be, but they prepare their organizations for any kind of setback. That might mean saving money for rainy days, very, very conservative in how they spend. Some of the, having a year's worth of expenses in the bank at all time, for example.
Right. So, but let's talk about all the companies that didn't prepare, right? I mean, no one, sure, you can say people saw this coming in January and February, despite all of that.
Sure.
There's tons of companies, whether they're massively public ones, whether they're mom and pop store,
sure,
on your local community, anything like that. Everyone's going through a crazy tough period because no dollars are coming in. So how do you keep that infinite mindset of wanting to propel your company, wanting to keep it alive, and making sure your staff stays on, all that without having prepared? I mean, that's in the past, right?
So the companies and individuals that I've seen successfully pivot, they seem to have some commonalities. Mm-hmm. The ones that are really struggling to pivot have put themselves at the center of the equation. How do we survive? How do we get more money? Right. The ones that are finding it are more successfully pivoting have put the customer and other people at the center of the equation. Wow. How do we help other people get what we want? Somebody asked me a question recently, which is, how am I changing? If I do a lot of public speaking, for example, how am I changing my business and dealing with the mindset that nobody wants public speakers anymore because there's no public events? And the answer I gave him was, I've stopped thinking about that. I imagine as if there's never going to be a public speech again. And now the question I'm asking myself is, I still have things that I believe need to be shared. I still believe we're in service to people out there to help them be inspired and stay safe wherever they are and end their day fulfilled. So the question is now how do I get that message out in a completely different way, as if this was the only thing I could do?
Mm-hmm. And you're doing that by offering these courses. You actually had them up on your Instagram talking about courses that you're offering. And people are signing up to find out how to reimagine their why, right? How you have teachers. So you've taken what was a business, flipped it, and taken it online. And what are you finding?
So it's working. And the thing I find astonishing I mean, we're building the plane while it's in the air. You know, we never had any kind of sophisticated online business ever. And now within weeks, we have one. And there's still a lot of growing pains, and we still have some kinks to get out. But what's been really remarkable is not just the pivot of the organization, but the pivoting of some of the people on my team, which is we have a different business now, but people were hired to do a different job, which means they have had to completely change their jobs. There are people who now have a job that's completely different than it was 3 months ago.
Right.
Different responsibility, different processes. That to me has been the most exciting thing, watching people pivot more than the organization.
Right. Well, I love that. I want you to just say it one more time about the two different businesses, one that are focusing on how they can survive right now, get more money, versus how can I continue to offer my message to, you know, benefiting the customers. What, can you say that part again?
Right. So it's a pattern that's emerged, that the companies that put themselves at the center of the equation, in other words, survival.
Right.
Right. Like, how are we going to survive? How are we going to get money? How we take, it's a taking mentality. They're the ones that are thinking more finite. They're thinking more short term, and they're the ones that are struggling to pivot. The ones that are, I mean, there's still struggle, but the ones that seem to have more success pivoting are the ones that have put other people at the center of their equation. How are we going to help people get what we have? We believe we have resources and value and talent. What's a new way that we can deliver that? And that can last a lot longer than the current state. Right. The business that we're building, it's not temporary, it's forever. This is the new business.
I love that.
I love, you know, also on your Instagram, and you talked about, Simon, that this is really a collective trauma that everybody's going through, and that people have compartmentalized it in order to just keep going. Those in the healthcare business, those maybe in government, but that we all have to be conscious that at some point we're going to deal with that, right? And what are you advising people on how to deal with the mental health component of this whole thing? And I know you're really concerned about the effect on our doctors and our nurses in particular. Yeah. So when this thing started, you know, I'm still an entrepreneur. I still have that entrepreneurial mindset. And for anyone with an entrepreneurial mindset, you know, chaos and creativity is just sort of a fantastic combination. Right. And so when this thing happened, I mean, I went into go mode. I went into mission mode. I'm like, all right, we got to change. We got to change everything. We got to reinvent. Go, go, go. And it was intense. And I was working harder than I've ever worked. And I wasn't dealing with the trauma. And my spirits were actually pretty high. And so I called a friend of mine who's in the military, and sort of as a joke, I said, you know, I'm still waiting for this to hit me, because it hasn't really hit me yet. I've been in so much in go, go, go mode. And he basically gave me a warning. He says it'll hit you when everything slows down. And this is the experience that they have in combat, which is they're in mission mode. They're so focused, you know, their brothers and sisters are getting hurt, you know, right next to them, and they're not processing it. And they do not compartmentalize their emotions. It's unhealthy to compartmentalize emotions. There's no such thing as compartmentalizing emotions. You're gonna have to deal with it at some point. And what they've discovered is when they come back from combat, sometimes months after they're back from combat, then all of a sudden, all the emotions and all the trauma rushes in. And we're talking about it more openly with PTS, of course, but I think a lot of people don't know how to deal with it or treat their friends who are going through the trauma, because rationally, everyth's fine. They're safe, they're back, you know, there's no stress, there's no bullets whizzing by. And we have to think about that for many of us. Many of us who've been in go mode and in mission mode, we haven't yet processed the trauma, and it's coming. Right. And I'm particularly worried about doctors and nurses and anyone working on the front line. You know, people who clean hospital rooms are now some of the most valuable people in the hospital. Right. And we're hailing them as heroes, and we're clapping for them as they go to work. That ends at some point, and they're just going to go back to being, you know, doctors and nurses and hospital workers again, and frontline first responders. Right. And that's when I'm worried that all of this trauma that they've been bottling up is going to pour out. The most extreme examples will be suicide, which we've already seen with Dr. Lorna Breen in New York City. But you're going to see burnout. You're going to see people dropping out of the profession. You're going to see divorce. You're going to see alcohol abuse. It's I think
it's bad.
what's interesting to take away, and also when you're talking about the businesses, I like to sometimes bring it back home to the home. And so if you are, it's a good place to start your leadership work is in your own home, at your own kitchen table. So
Yeah.
talking to those in your family or those you're quarantining with, how is, to bring up the issue of trauma, how are you feeling? Have you been in go, 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 go mode? And
Yeah.
what is that like for you? And then picking up the idea, like we're still a family. There are things we can do to be helpful. Many of the things you talk about for businesses can also be done by parents at home with adult kids, with small children, to create a sense of community and to create a sense of helpfulness out in the world, which I think is really important.
It goes back to what we were just talking about. It goes back to service.
Right.
The way to deal with this is together. Like none of us can deal with the trauma alone, but we all of us can deal with it with help from someone who cares about us, which can be in the form of a family member or not, but it's somebody who genuinely wants to be there for us. Yeah. And I've called a lot of my friends who I know are in go mode, and we sort of made a deal with each other that when it starts to hit, that we'll call each other. And we've made a deal that there's no crying alone. Like if you want to cry, you call someone and you cry. There's no crying alone, not allowed.
That's interesting.
And it, unfortunately, a lot of people, especially A-type personalities, asking for help is a sign of weakness. And I know that in hospitals, there's a culture in many hospitals that asking for help or saying that you're struggling is a sign of weakness. And nothing could be further from the truth. It takes tremendous courage to ask for help. And it takes more strength to ask for help than anything else. But as simple as asking somebody, how are you? And calling and saying, I'm thinking about you.
Right.
And not trying to fix anything. Let someone talk, let someone vent, let someone scream, let someone cry. And the military has learned this. They learned this in Iraq and Afghanistan, which is the way that they were dealing with it was completely wrong. Yeah. And now they're teaching their soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guard coasties to express their emotions, to cry, to ask for help.
That's great.
That means you need a good listener, though. If you're, So that's.
I know who I'm calling when I'm crying. I'll call you, Simon.
Anytime, Patrick. Anytime.
You can always call Mom.
Look, I want to talk. Today was I think it was today or yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of me graduating, and I graduated from USC here, and obviously conditions were completely different than what they are today for the new 2020 graduating class. My little brother Christopher graduated 2 weeks ago, through Zoom. It's an odd time. There's no way to kind of beat around the bush of what it's like for people that are graduating right now. What are you telling some of the new graduates or people that are asking you for, hey, how should I think? What should I be doing right now? I don't have work anymore, everything like that.
So I'm going to sound like a broken record, right?
Yeah.
Which is you have a group of friends who are all going through the same thing. And so being there for each other is going to create ideas. Remember, when we go selfish, when we put ourselves at the center of equation, it becomes short-term and it becomes a take mentality.
Right.
But what we always see in times of crisis is innovation. There's tons of ideas that happen in times like this because those with the infinite mindset, those that are thinking about other people before themselves, are finding incredibly clever and new ways to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
We're already seeing it out there. One of my favorite examples is a pizzeria in Chicago called Demos. Demos made 70% of its revenues from selling slices of pizza. Well, as soon as COVID hit, you can't sell slices anymore, and they weren't equipped for a significant delivery. But he didn't look at the owner of Demos didn't look at his pizza shop and say, oh my God, I have a pizza oven. How am I going to make more pizzas? He said, I have a pizza oven. I wonder what I could do with a pizza oven. And he discovered that his pizza ovens burn hotter than regular ovens, that he could actually bend industrial grade plastics, acetates. So he started buying industrial acetates and bending them and making them into face shields that he could sell to hospitals.
Wow. That's great.
But the point is and I can guarantee he didn't do that alone.
Right.
Even on our team, we asked our employees, we wanted, and I got this from my friend Jen Waldman, we wanted them to come up with 15 ideas in 48 hours, in 2 days.
Right.
Everybody had to deliver 15 ideas in 2 days. And you'll see there's tons of ideas, and it's not going to be sold from the people at the top. We have to involve the rank and file, which is why I think recent college graduates are a wonderful place to go, because they have a different experience, they have a new experience. I think it's a great time for entrepreneurship. I really do.
Yeah,
I think also there's something about honoring the fact that it sucks for these graduates, whether they've been coming from high school or college, but just honoring that they're missed out. There's grief there, there's loss there. There's just like, yeah, this sucks. And then trying to ask them to think, I like what you're saying about to band together with their brothers and sisters and to think their larger brothers and sisters, what can we bring to this? We're the class of the pandemic. What can we bring to this that's unique to us, that's creative, that's inventive, that's innovative? And it's not going to be what they thought, but it's going to be something that distinguishes them, that will be coming back to your grandmother, that will be a tale that they can tell.
Yeah. And I think it goes to narrative, Maria. Like, who says it sucks? Yeah. Right? It's like I was working out with a friend of mine on Zoom the other day, on FaceTime the other day. And we were just working out together, you know, because I'm useless at working out, doing anything by myself. And it was a particularly difficult workout. And I said to her, we got halfway through this difficult workout. And I said to her, I've got some good news and some bad news. And she says, well, what's the bad news? I said, the bad news is we're only halfway done. She says, well, what's the good news? I said, the good news is we're already halfway done. So, and it completely changes how you view this workout depending on your attitude. So if I say we're only halfway done, everything just got more difficult. If I say we're already halfway done, everything is downhill.
Right.
So
there's always two ways to look at everything.
So who says this sucks? You know, every graduation is a formula. They pull out the formula and they do the same thing every single year. And everybody who's ever graduated prior to this day, their graduation was basically the same thing. And though it's exciting and memorable in the moment, I got to be honest with you, I don't remember a single detail about my graduation, right? Nothing. I just remember that Barbra Streisand got a degree. She didn't sing a song. That's all I remember.
You got wrong.
But this will be one of the most memorable graduations ever. And nobody gets to sit with their parents right next to them when they graduate. That's amazing.
Right.
So I think who says it sucks? Maybe it's wonderful.
Yeah. Your brother actually said that he thought that the Zoom graduation that we organized was way better.
Yeah, it was like
the big one would
20 of his best friends in their
Exactly.
little house, you know, drinking, eating pizza and getting
exactly. And the parking's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's and finally, Simon, because I know you have to go, but I was saying that in the Sunday paper, you had 3 wishes because we were socially distanced walking, and somebody asked us both about our wishes for the world. And one of your 4th wish was it's not really fair, but you said that you hoped we had a country less that focused on money and might and more on values and virtue. Yeah. And I talked about that last night at the table because we asked.
Tell the people that are listening what it is. The 3. Explain the whole thing so that they can try to.
Okay, so we were walking and we walked by these 2 guys who had stopped walking, and we knew who they were, and they started talking to us, and they said to us, what are your 3 wishes for the world right now? They don't have to be attainable or possible, but what are they? And so I wanted to kind of spend some time thinking about it, and Simon just blurted 4 wishes out in perfect alliteration.
You only get 3, Simon.
Yeah,
3.
and
I've never been very good at following rules, Patrick.
So go ahead and say what they are.
What yours were.
Well, I mean, I think to your point, Maria, I think the last one, you know, I believe in service. Mm-hmm. And I believe that whether an individual, a company, or a nation state, you know, to truly lead means you lead with virtues and values. And the great organizations to work for are virtuous, they believe in being ethical, and they're values-based organizations. You talk to any Marine and ask them why the Marine Corps works, and they'll say it's a values-based organization, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And though might and money are their byproducts, their results.
Right.
And I think great organizations, great nation states, great individuals lead with virtue and values and not with might and money. Those things are finite. You can only lead with might and money for a short period of time because they're not infinite. So I would like our nation once again to hold the mantle of being strong because of who we are, not just what we do.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Simon. I know it's 2:30. You got to run.
Yeah.
But,
Unfortunately, I love spending this time has whizzed by. I love spending time with you.
I know, we
But
love
thank you
We
so
have
much for
all
having
these
me.
online courses that are available that you can go and you just pay what you can, and you get really good lessons and ideas and
Thank you.
instruction.
it's also a great time to read. Simon's
you
got
can
some
read
great
his
books
book.
as well. So go on
Cool.
there and read, and you can
You
join
can
our book
follow
club.
him on Instagram.
You can follow him on Instagram.
Well,
You can follow him wherever.
Thank you, guys. So good to see you. See you
Bye.
soon. Be safe. Take care of each other.
All right.
Bye.
See you,
Bye,
Simon.
Simon.
Bye.
Bye.
I love his last wish about his point about values and virtue, whether that's for the country, whether if you have a small business, or once again, for your family.
Right.
What are the values that your family is about? What are the virtues? I loved the way he put that.
Yeah.
And it's an alliteration.
Yeah. Damn, he's good.
He's good. Smart. It's
No,
irritating.
it was really good. And I also loved what he talked about with different businesses, how some of them right now, businesses or leaders or people were so focused on kind of me. How do I get some more money right now? How do I survive right now? Where there's the other companies that go on and you know, consistently make it through these economic crises or different forms of crises are always focused on, okay, what are the customers needing? What are they looking for? How can we focus and shift our business to help them? And in turn, the money will come. The other things will come. So I thought that was great. But for everyone that is new kind of watching, obviously I'm Patrick Schwarzenegger. You're on my page.
I'm his mother, Maria Shriver.
Yes, and
he didn't light me well today.
It's not me. I don't know what it is.
There I am. No, I told you that I'm a little
like
bit
dark.
older than you.
No,
so
I don't know. Trust me, multiple people said on there, Patrick, take a nap. So I don't know what it is. Something weird about the lights today. I think it's because it's raining out. But
cool.
anyways, thank you guys so much for.
The conversation was great.
Yeah, the conversation was great. For all the people that are asking me about the book club, you can join my book club. We're just finishing our book right now. We have a conversation on Zoom next week. But you just go to my profile. There's a phone number. You can just press text in the profile and text me book club, and you'll get added into it. And Simon Sinek's book was our first one a few months ago. And it was great to read that. And we just continue to read a book every month and have a conversation over Zoom. So if you want to join, just message me. Wow.
That's cool.
That is cool.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. And I hope you enjoyed listening to Simon. And we did.
We did. We sure did.
We
Home
did.
together.
Home together. We're still home together. Me and Mama.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, bye.